Okay, next part of the Sleep Good series. What we're going to talk about today is essentially about some blockers to sleep or things that might be preventing us from getting good sleep, which we can do things about. So the first one is lighting. So you're probably already aware that your phone and other electronic devices shoot blue LED light into your eyes, and essentially what that does is it tricks the brain into thinking that it's still daytime, and it won't release melatonin and stuff like that to make you go to start prepping your body for sleep and building up your feeling of being tired. What you can do in that instance, well, ideally what you should do is not be using your devices about 2 hours before you plan on going to bed. So if you're planning to go to bed at 11, right, you should probably stop using your devices around 8:39. But if that isn't possible, or even if that isn't possible, you should probably still do this regardless. And you can set it. A lot of the apps that I'll kind of make reference to, have features where you can time when it turns on. But what you can do is you can get apps on your phone. I think it's in a lot of the settings nowadays, just as part of the phones themselves. At least I know on the iPhone, because I've set it up on mine. You can do this nighttime feature where it will reduce the blue LED. Instead of that, it'll be shooting yellow and red LED lights, which are kind of like softer colors, which are has a less of effect of it still will have an effect because you're still looking at a screen, but it will at least reduce the effect that blue LED has on your body when you're trying to fall asleep. And I've set it up so that it starts kicking it in at 6 p.m. So my phone and my laptop will immediately will start shooting, will slowly transition to a more darker kind of orangish kind of color on the screen overall, instead of the kind of more brighter blue one that typically is there. So if you have to use your devices at nighttime, definitely use one of those apps, or go through the settings of your devices to find where you can actually change that and implement that. So that's one strategy you can use. Another thing to be aware of is just how phone lighting does that to your body. It makes it think that it's daytime. Same thing with general lighting in your house. So if you have a bunch of if you have all your lights on and stuff like that in your house, let's say in your living room, that will also keep you up at night as well. It will also have that similar kind of effect, because it's just that general luminance and brightness that is kind of telling your body that, hey, it's still a time to be awake, when in reality it's not. But thanks to electricity, we can kind of shift that a little bit. What the book recommends is that you, at nighttime, when you're getting into the afternoon into the evening, to change to more, if you've got a dimmer, if your lighting has a dimmer function where you can kind of turn the brightness down, it recommends doing that. But if that is not possible, what it recommends to do is get really somewhat dim lamps that you can kind of set up in a corner of a room or something like that, and you just leave that on. And what that will do is it will just be less total brightness, which will kind of also help you when it comes to getting ready for bed, because you won't have that bright awareness of your body thinking it's daytime. Moving on to the next one, which is alcohol, which I think we may have talked about at a previous. I think we talked about it when it came to learning, but we'll talk about it now when it comes to its effect on sleep. A really important thing that was stressed to me in the book was that sleep disruptions and waking up in the middle of the night is just absolutely detrimental to your sleep, because and overall sleep quality, because it needs to be one continuous stretch of sleep. You can't have instances of where you're waking up at night and thinking that's fine. That will still actually have a negative effect, because it kind of pulls you out of the overall turning over of the sleep cycles. And with alcohol, what it does is it will make you more likely to experience sleep disruptions where you'll wake up in the middle of the night. But the thing is, you won't remember them, because alcohol is a sedative. You won't remember actually waking up. And I've experienced this myself, where you wake up and you won't remember, but someone else does. And that actually has, like I said, a negative impact on your sleep. And alcohol, because of its sedative effect, especially on the frontal cortex of your brain, which is where the good stuff for REM sleep kind of happens. What it does is it reduces your REM sleep, which when we talked about, learning and stuff like that, and, the ability to retain information, it reduces that. So your overall sleep quality is kind of impacted on two fronts when it comes to alcohol. Now, another interesting component about, barriers to sleep and also strategies around what we can do to fix that is also temperature, which when you think about it, about the lighting, before electricity, before all that, when we were living in caves and stuff like that, nighttime meant that the sun, disappeared and that it was all dark. So that was one indication to our body that it's time to prepare for sleep. But the other kind of instance is temperature. At nighttime, the temperature drops from what it was in the day. And that slight degree, or that slight change in temperature actually also has a prompting, capacity on our body's sleep cycles, because what you're looking for, when we're asleep, our body temperature actually, goes down by, I think it was 1 degree Celsius, or about 2 to 3 Fahrenheit. And a strategy to kind of implement that and kind of, manage that. So you don't want things to be so the room that you're in, you don't want it to be too hot or too cold. So they said around about 18 degrees Celsius is kind of what is the most conducive environment to, encourage sleep. And then something else you can also do on top of that, which is a strategy you can use, is before going to bed, maybe kind of just before going to bed, what you can do is wet your hands and kind of splash your face with water, because your core body temperature needs to drop. So what you can do is, if you put water either warm, if you wash your face with either warm or cold water, it doesn't really matter. What it does is blood will rush to those sites, being your hands and your face. And because they have so many blood capillaries or whatever they're called, there's so many avenues for the blood in those spaces that it shifts a large amount of blood away from your core body, which in turn will reduce your core body temperature and bring you down to that 1 degree drop in body temperature, which is ideally what you want to kind of make sleep conducive. Another way you can kind of also get that same kind of effect is to just have a warm bath before going to bed, because the blood will rush to your skin, which will then release the heat, as it's steaming off your body and stuff like that. So the body temperature will actually cool. Well, your core body temperature will cool through your skin heating up and stuff like that. So that's another avenue which we can you can go down and use as a way to make sleep improve your ability to make sleep more of a common thing. Make it quicker. And the last one, which is something we've already talked about, and I think, it's already mentioned many a times, is do not drink caffeine. Ideally don't drink caffeine at all, but if you still need, you still want to drink caffeine, which me personally, actually, after reading this book, I've stopped drinking caffeine at all, just because I already knew it was bad, but knowing what I know now, and that it it stays in your body for over 12 hours. So if you have something at midday, it's still, there's a portion of it still in your blood or in your body at midnight, which is obviously going to impact your ability to get, good sleep, even if it's only, to a certain extent. Even if it was if you had, a Red Bull or a coffee at 10 p.m. at night, it'd be obviously less than that if you drank it in the middle of the day, but it's still going to be having an effect. And at this point, what I've learned is, caffeine seems to be very much a crutch for people who are getting bad sleep, but then that kind of creates this weird cycle where you're getting bad sleep because you're drinking caffeine, which keeps you up at night. So then you wake up the next day feeling tired. So then you have more caffeine because you need to wake up, because it will suppress your body's innate need to sleep. And then that just becomes this endless cycle that goes on for weeks, months, years, or a whole lifetime. So look, that's kind of one half of some of the strategies and some of the blockers to good sleep, and how to get into that mindset and into that kind of sleep mode. Next week I'll cover some more. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, but I think one of them has to do with sleeping pills and along those lines. But we'll cover that when it comes to it. Until then, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.